This conference will now be recorded.
Fine, let us start the session. Now, in today's session, we are going to discuss about there are some few concepts we need to discuss. That is, what is parent flows and what is meant by child flows, and also how to call the child flows within the parent flows. We'll discuss now in today's session. So, now to go and work with it, let me go and open my notepad. First of all, let me list out the topics we are going to discuss now in today's session. Now, see, now first we are going to discuss about here is what is meant by this parent flows, what is this child flows. So still now we created many flows, guys, like automated cloud flows, scheduled cloud flows, and instant cloud flows. So all those are the three different types of cloud flows you can create. Now while you are creating the cloud flows, you can create the flows in two types. One type of flows we'll call it as parent flows and child flows. Now which flows are called as parent flows, which flows are called as child flows, we'll understand now in today's session. Now see, there are two types of flows. One is parent flows, second is child flows. One is parent flows and second one is child flows. Now what is this parent flows? First let me discuss what is this parent flows, guys. Now see, parent flows are parent flows are the main flows to run the work process. So parent flows are the main flows in the work process, guys. Whenever if you are creating a flow, so parent flows are the main flows. Parent means these are the main flows to run the work process. So this parent flows will have the multiple child flows. Within the parent flows, we are going to have or we are going to use the multiple child flows. So first point you need to understand, parent flows are the main flows. Parent means main. These are the main flows to run the work process. Within the parent flows, you are able to go and use the child flows. Multiple child flows you can go and create it. Now, what is meant this child flows? So try to understand. Child flows, child flows are like a nested flows, guys. Child flows are like a nested flows inside the parent flow. So if there is any requirement where you need to go and use some flows in another flow, so that's what I'm keeping here. Child flows are the nested type of flows inside the parent flows, and child flows will contains the similar tasks that you want to run. So what the child flows will contains means whatever the things, whatever the actions you want to perform in the parent flows, the same actions you can go and perform in the child flows also. Child flows contains similar task is nothing but what actions, similar tasks you want to run. So whatever if you want to go and run in the child flows, almost the same task or same actions will be there in the child flows also. Next point here is you can have the multiple child flows inside the parent flow. Inside the parent flows, you can go and use the multiple child flows. So parent flow is the main flow to run the work process. Child flows is nothing but the nested flows inside the parent flow. Inside the parent flow, you are going to use some child flows. So those are called as nested flows. Child flows will contain the similar actions or tasks. Let me keep it as actions. Say child flows will contain the similar actions you want to run in the parent flow. And also you can have the multiple child flows inside the parent flow. Inside the parent flow, you can go and use the multiple child flows. Now let me give one scenario, guys. So basically we'll create the flows. That flows are called as parent flows. Whatever the flows we created up to previous classes, all those are the parent flows. Now when to go and create this child flows? Let me give one scenario. When to go and create the child flows. Let us say if there is any flow, let's suppose think that guys, you are creating one flow here. Let's say suppose think that you are creating one flow So that flow contains multiple actions. That flow contains what? That flow contains multiple actions. Your flow is running flow, guys. There are multiple steps involved in your flow. So whenever if your flow is having the multiple steps or multiple actions, again here I'm having the some other if condition or switch case. Here I'm having something like switch case. So here I'm having the switch case, multiple conditions I want to find. Again this condition is satisfying, I want to find another two more conditions. Again here this condition is satisfied, then I want to go and define here some other switch case like this. So whenever if your flow is long run flow, whenever if your flow is lengthy, if your flow will have the multiple steps or multiple actions, if your flow is having the n number of steps, your flow is lengthy, then in this case if you want to run this type of flows, it will take some time. If your flow is having the multiple steps or multiple actions, then in this case the flow will take some time to run the flow, to complete the process of the flow. And also here my requirement case, I don't want to increase the number of steps in my flow case, I want to reduce the number of steps in my flow. So instead of going and creating these many steps, what I can do here is, let us say I'm going to create this separate this thing up to only this part I'm going to create as a separate flow. Only this part I will create one separate flow, this part I will create one separate flow, and this part I will go and create one separate flow. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to split my parent flow into multiple flows. So when to go and use the child flows means, whenever if your flow is having the multiple steps, lot of navigation is there, if you want to perform the multiple actions, if your flow is too lengthy, then in this case to reduce the length of your flow, or to reduce the number of steps in that flow or the actions in that flow, you can go and create what? Child flows. If you can go and create some child flows, and you can go and use those child flows within the parent flows. If you use the child flows within the parent flows, automatically the number of steps you are involving in this flow will be reduces. Automatically the performance of your flow will also will be increases. So when to go and create the child flows means, this is scenario. Whenever if your flow is lengthy, if you have a number of steps or actions, then in this case if you want to reduce the length of your flow or the number of steps in your flow, and also if you want to improve the performance of your flow, then in this case go and you create what? Child flows. If you go and create a child flow, you can go and use these child flows in the parent flows. So automatically the length of your flow will be reduces, like the length of your parent flow will be reduces. So in these scenarios we can go and use this child flows or parent flows. Still now up to here we discussed whatever the flows we discussed up to yesterday's class, the parent flows. Now let me show you in today's session how to go and create the child flows and how to use these child flows in the parent flows. Let me give one scenario for this, and now try to understand. In order to go and create the child flows, and if you want to go and use these child flows in the parent flows, you need to go and create the solutions, guys. Now see the uh, the requirement, the prerequisite the prerequisite in order to go and create the child flows, and how if you want to use this child flows in the parent flows means, to create the child flows we need to have the solution. If you want to go and create the child flows, you need to go and create what? A solution, guys. Now what is meant by solution? Already we discussed, and I'm discussing in the power apps, already we discussed about what is meant by solution. Now see what the solution means. Solution is the place where you can go and create your power platform applications, guys. Solutions is the place where you can go and create your apps. Solutions is the place where you can go and create your flows. So whatever if you want to create the apps, whatever the flows you want to create, I said that recommended to go and create the flows or apps in where? Within the solutions in the real time. When we need to, why we need to go and create the apps or flows within the solutions means, for deployment purpose. If you want to move the apps or solutions or apps or flows from dev environment to test environment, dev to test, or test to production, then in this case you need to go and create everything within the solutions. Already we discussed it. Now let me go and create one new solution, and within that solution let me show you how to create a child flow first, and then let me show you how to create a parent flow, and then how to call a child flow within the parent flows. So let me go and open the Power Automate. First of all, let me go and create one solution. Not to go and work with the flow child flows. I said that you need to go and create what? First, you need to go and create one solution. Let me go and create one solution here, guys. Click on the solutions. Already we have one solution. We created one solution previously. Analytics benchmark is the solution. Let me go and create one new solution to work with this flows, child flows. Click on the new solution. Click on the name, solution name, child flows solution. Next, publisher. Always don't go and use the default publisher. If you go and click on it, there are some CDS, and these two are the default solutions. Already we have some two solutions, guys. AB, sorry, publishers. Already having the two publishers, AB and analytics benchmark. I will show you how to go and create it again. Go and click on what? How to create a new publisher. Click on this new publisher. Pass the name. Let me pass here child flows name, child flow, child. Let me keep it like this, prefix f, cf. Let me keep it as cf stands for child flows. Now just go and click on save button. So I'm creating one new publisher here. Once after creating the publisher, you can go and select that publisher. Now click on this drop down, select the publisher at what? Child flows. Now once after selecting the publisher, now go and click on what? Create. When I click on create, now it is going to create one new solution. Now see, it is creating one new solution, guys. Now within the solution, I need to go and create some flows. So first of all, let me go and click on new. What I want to create new flows. What type of flow I want to create here? Cloud flows. What are the type of cloud flow? First, let me show you how to create a child flow, guys. So to create the child flow, I'm selecting what? Instant cloud flows. Select the instant cloud flow. Now let me go and pass the flow name here. Let it open. Now first let me go and pass the flow name. What's the name I want to keep here for this flow? Let me keep the flow name as child flow, child flow 2. Let me keep it as child flow 2. And now select the trigger as manually trigger a flow. Select this one and click on create. Now I'm creating one child flow here, guys. What's the name? Child flow 2. Now this is manually trigger a flow. Now what I want to do here is, whenever I click on the button, manual trigger a flow means on select of the button. Now what is the first step? What is the step I want to perform here is, first of all, I want to go and connect to the SharePoint. I want to connect to the SharePoint. In the SharePoint, what I want to do here is, I want to get the items. Get items from the SharePoint. Click on this action, get items. So what is the site I want to connect? The site name is Power Automate Flows. Let me go and connect to the Power Automate Flows. What is the list name is? Let me connect to the list name as students. Students. Now once after getting the items details, next I need to go and send one email to the students case. In the students list, let me go and open the SharePoint. Let me go to the Power Automate Flows. Now if you see within the students list, I'm having some email IDs. I'm having some students data. I'm having some email IDs. Now I want to send the emails to the students. So let me go and select here what? Send an email. When I click on the send an email, just go and select what's the action? Send an email from Office 365 Outlook. Now to whom I want to send? I want to send the emails to all the employees, those who are working in the uh, to all the students, those who are in the students list. Click on the email. I want to make it as dynamic case. That's why I'm keep selecting here from the dynamic content. If you enter here manually, it will be static. To make the flow as dynamic, I'm entering like this. Next subject. What's the subject? Let us say uh, students details means, let us say it is an inquiry form. Students are inquiring for the courses. Students are inquiring for the courses. Now let me go and keep here. What's the subject? Let me keep the subject as thanks for Thanks for inquiring. Whatever the course the student is inquired, that course name I want list out here. Thanks for inquiring which course. Next, hi. I want to mention the student name here. Hi, whatever the name of that student. We are from analytics benchmark. Thanks for inquiring. Thanks for inquiring. What course the student is inquired? Let me go and select the course. Thanks for inquiring. Which course the student is inquired? Thanks for inquiring. Whatever the course it is. Let us say Power Apps course. Let me keep here. Thanks. Thank you. Thank you. A/B trainings. This is the message I want to send. This is the message I want to send. Keep it in the bold. Keep it in the bold. Now see what I'm doing here is I'm creating one child flow here. The flow name is child flow 2. I'm triggering, what is my trigger? Manually trigger a flow, get items from the SharePoint, and then go and send the email to the students, those who are in the SharePoint list, all the students I want to send. Now this is my child flow case. Once after creating this child flow, now you need to go and add one step here. That is important. This flow, this step is important, guys. What is the step I want to add here is, let me go and click on the new step. Once if you perform all the actions, whatever if you want to perform, finally you need to go and add one step here. That is respond to a Power Apps or a flow. There is an action called, let me go and type here, Power Apps. There is an action. Let me select this one. Respond to a Power App. Where is that action? Just 1 second. Let me check the action. Right action we need to select. Too much. Where it is? Hmm. This is the one. Respond to a Power App or a flow. Select this action, guys. This action is important. Now see, once after performing all actions, whatever the actions you want to perform, finally the last step you need to go and keep here. Where you need to go and keep it? In the child flows. In the child flows, you need to go and add this step. Respond to a Power App or a flow. So this complete flow need to respond. Finally, this need to respond for a Power App or a Power Automate flow. So you can keep simply like this, or you can add one step here, guys. Go to the text responses. What's the responses? Let us say success. Successful. Now just go and click on save the flow. Now I'm just creating one child flow here, guys. Within the child flow, once after performing all the steps, finally don't forget to add this step. Respond to a Power App or a flow. Now see, the flow is saved successfully. The flow is saved. Now just go back. Now I need to go and create one more flow. The flow I want to create here is what? The flow I want to go and create here is parent flow. Again, go and click on new. What I want to create. Now let me go and click on the cloud flow, guys. Let me go and select the scheduled flow. In the cloud flows, go and select what? Scheduled flow. So my parent flow, what is my parent flow means? My parent flow is a scheduled flow. Now what is the flow name? Let me keep the parent flow 2. Now when I want to run this flow, from today itself I want to run this flow. Let me select the time as 9:30. From 9:30 onwards I want to run this flow. Now how many times I want to run? Every 1 minute I want to run this flow. Just go and click on what? Create. I'm creating the parent flow here, guys. Now I'm passing the recurrence. Now see, the next step here is, now here, what I want to do here is, same operations, whatever I did in the child flow, the same I want to implement it here. So instead of going and repeatedly doing the same activity in multiple parent flows, what I will do here is, I will go and call the child flows, guys. If I keep here a child flow, if you scroll down here, somewhere you can see an option called call a child flow, or go and click on this flows. Go and click on this flows. When I click on it, here you can see an action. What's that action? Run a child flow. Run a child flow. Now select this run a child flow. Now what I'm going to select here is, I'm going to select the child flow here, guys. From where I'm going to select the child flow? In the parent flow. Now from the parent flows, I'm going to call the child flows. Now it is telling that go and select the child flow. What is my child flow? My flow name is child flow 2. This is my flow name, child flow name. Select this one. Select this one. Simple. No need to go and perform. Whatever the actions we performed in the child flow 2, the same actions you can go and perform from here in the parent flow. So like this, instead of going and performing the same actions, there I performed the 3 actions. Instead of going and performing those three actions here in the parent flow, just I'm calling the child flow here. Now once after calling it, just go and click on save. Now I'm going to run the parent flow, guys. Now see, it will throw some errors. What is that error is? uh, Bad request. Child flow cannot. What is this? Why it is throwing the error means, uh, just to save it. I think it doesn't saved here. Why? Because I'm having some errors. Now do one thing, guys. Why it is throwing the error? Because of whatever the child flow I created, this child flow will go and run in this flow only, guys. Whatever the child flow we created, there itself it will go and run. So I want to run this child flow in the parent flows also. In order to go and perform it, go to the child flow, go and edit the child flow, go and click on it, go to the details, go to the details of the child flow. Now currently I'm in the child flow. If you scroll down here in the child flows, run only users, run only users. So when I go and click on edit it, now who will run this means, who will run this means provided by the users only. Others, they are not able to run it. Now go and change it. Go and change the SharePoint connector to use this connection. Click on OK. And Outlook connection also I want to change. Go and change it to use the connections. Now click on save button. Now go and click on save button. Now once it is saved, now go and create the parent flow now. Now go and click on the parent flow, guys. Go and create the parent flow now. Scheduled. Let me pass the name as parent flow 2. Every 1 minute I want to run from 9:30. Recurrence. Now let me go and see here what. Call a child flow. You can directly type here call a child flow. Somewhere you can see run a child flow. Click on it, run a child flow. Now go and select the child flow. What is my child flow? Child flow 2. Click on it. Now just go and click on the save button now. Now whatever the child flow actions is there, the same actions I can go and perform from here. No need to go and do it again here also. Now see, there is no errors. The flow is saved successfully. Now just go and test the flow. Test it manually for the first time. Click on run. Click on done. Now see, it is telling that your flow is running. Now run the flow. Now see, I am running the child flow here. When I go to the child flow, it is running the flow here. So these are the actions it is sending. So these are the actions it is performing here. So finally output is what? Success. The flow is run successfully. Now if you go to the SharePoint list, there is one email ID, Venkichala1995. This is my email. Let me go and log into my Gmail. Let me check whether I received the email or not. Yes, I received the email from user36. Now what is that email? Thanks for inquiring. Which course I inquired? If you go and see which course I inquired, the course name is Power Apps. So what is the message it is getting? Thanks for inquiring Power Apps. Hi Venki, we are from Analytics Benchmark. Thanks for inquiring Power Apps course. Thank you. AB trainings. So like this, if there is any scenario where if you want to create a flow and your flow is having a number of actions, and if your flow is having multiple steps, then if you want to reduce the length of your flow, then go and create some child flows. Go and create the child flows, and instead of going and adding the new multiple steps, wherever if you want to call the child flow, you can go and call it. And so in this way you can reduce the number of lines in the parent flows, and also somehow you can improve the performance of your flows also. So this is what is meant by parent flows and child flows. So if you want to go and work with the child flows, first of all you need to go and create what? Solutions. Within the solutions only you need to go and create the parent flows and child flows. And now see, I said that how to call a child flow in parent flows. I discussed this point also, how to call a parent child flow into parent flows. And also I discussed here run or trigger a flow from another flow. So child flow is one flow, parent is another flow. I am calling, or I am running the child flow from where? From the parent flows. So this is all about what is this parent flows and child flows. When to go with the child flows? Basically most of the cases will go with the parent flows only, but worst cases if you want you can go and use the child flows also. This is about what is meant by child flows and parent flows. And next point we are going to discuss here is there are some flow settings will be there. We'll discuss what is the different types of settings, flow settings and flow action settings. First let me go and discuss about the flow settings guys. What is this flow settings means? Whenever if you go to any one of the flow, if you go to any one of the flow, now see, just go and select any one of the flow guys. Let me go and select the multi-level approval. Let me go and select this flow. So select the flow. When I select this flow will have some settings. What are the settings this flow is having? Now see, on the top you are able to see this flow settings case. On the top you are able to see this flow settings. Every flow will have the same settings. If you want to edit, if you want to share, or if you want to save as. Save as means if you want to save the same flow as with a different name. So let's select the flow. Already you know this guys. Share I discussed in yesterday's class. Edit also we discussed. Now what is this save as? When I go and click on the save as, I'm going to save the same flow with another name. So just if you want to change the name, or just go and copy it. Copy of a multi-level approval. Click on save. Now what is doing? It is going to create the same flow with another name. It is going to create the same flow with another name. Now see, it is creating the same flow. This is the main flow, and by using this flow I'm creating the same flow, another flow. So like this, whenever if you want to create the copy of this flow, whenever if you want to create another copy of this flow, then go and click on what? Save as. And then on the top you are able to see three dots here guys, three ellipses. This is more actions. When I click on this more actions, there are some actions will be there. There are some options will be there. The same options you can go and see it from here also. From here also you can go and edit. From here also you can go and share it. Here also you can see the same three ellipses. Now if you see, here also you can see the edit option, share option, save as option. So all this we discussed here: edit, share, save as. And next point, next one more is send a copy. Whenever if you want to send the same copy to some other users, you can go and send it. So when I click on send a copy, now it will ask us to enter the name here, I think flow has been modified since last run. It is modified, let me check. Let me save the flow. Now go to the flow. Now see, when I go to this, where is it, multi-level approval. Now when I go and click on this send a copy, I think some has been modified since last run. It is showing some error. Let me do one thing. Let me go and select another one. Let me go and select this control. If you go and click on this send a copy, now you from here you can go and send one copy, guys. Again, it is showing the same error. What is the problem? Let me select anyone. It is able to send. Maybe those flows have some errors. That's the reason it is not sending. So if you want to send a same copy, now see, you can send the same flow to some other users. So enter the username here, to which user you want to send. Let's say I want to send to the user one, and once after adding the user, description is also mandatory. Let me pass some description. Description must and should contains 25 characters, and then go and click on the send button. When I click on the send button, I'm going to send the same copy of this flow to the user one. Now see, flow successfully sent to the send a copy, sent as a copy. So if you want to send the same flow to some other users, you can go and use it. And next one is export. Already discussed this export, guys. How to export the flows and how to import the flows, those things I discussed in the yesterday's class. So already we discussed it. And next one is run history. Now see here, guys, what is this run history? Run history means how many times your flow run, and how, in that runs, how many times it is succeeded and how many times the flow is failed. So if you want to see the run history of your flow, click on the run history. When I click on the run history, here you can see it at what date and time the flow started, and what is the duration the time is the flow is taking, how much time the flow is taking, and then finally what is this status, whether the flow runs successfully or whether the flow is failed. So if you want to check how many times your flow runs successfully and how many times your flow failed, if you want to check your flow history, you can go and use what, this one, run history. Next one is analytics. What is this analytics means? If you want to analyze how many times your flow run, what is how many times it is succeeded, how many times it is failed, and also per day how many times it is running, so some analytics it will give. So when I click on the analytics, by default, by using the Power BI, Power Automate itself will create some analytics here, guys. Now see, it is creating some analytics. At what date and time the flow run? This flow run only 3 times. And what is the time, date and time it run? If you go to the usage, now for the usage also it will go and give some analytics. Now see, it is by default is creating some report. So this is Power BI reports, guys. By default, Power Automate will create some reports by using the Power BI. So it is loading. Just wait. Mhm. Now see, it is giving some report here, usage. What is the usage? Now see at what date and time the flow run. This is the date and time. At this date the flow run. Now how many runs? One run, one flow run. How many times the flow is run means only one time. So here it is showing in the bar column chart. Here it is showing in the line chart. It is telling that how many times the flow is run. So if you want to analyze how many times the flow runs successfully, so if you want to go and do some analytics, you can go and click on what, analytics, and go to the flow, go to these 3 dots. Analytics means if you want to analyze how many times the flow run, how many users are using, what is the active time, like this you can go and use it. And next, turn off. If you don't want to run this flow, if you want to stop the flow for some time, go and click on this turn off. When I click on the turn off, this flow is going to be turning off, guys. We are not, this flow doesn't run. until and unless you'll go turn on it. When I click on turn off, now see, automatically this flow will be grayed out. That means it is turned off. This flow doesn't work now. If I want to run this flow again, go and click on what? Turn on. When I click on turn on, now I am able to run this flow. So this is what is meant by turn on and turn off. And repair repair tips off means, now see what is this repair to, tips means stop flow alerts. That means without alerts you will need to monitor your flow either via a flow dashboard. So whenever the flow runs, it will give some notifications for us by default. So if you don't want to get those notifications, you can go and turn off those notifications. So this is what is this repair tips off. Whenever if you want to stop the notifications, whenever the flow is run successfully, or if the flow is failure, if you don't want to get any notifications, you can go and stop it them here. And then delete. If you want to delete this flow, you can go and delete it. And when I click on these details, when I click on these details, you are able to see the complete details of this flow. Now see, you are able to see the complete details. What is the flow name? Here you can see the details: flow name, owner, status. This flow is running currently, created at what date and time the flow is created, at what date and time the flow is modified, what type of flow it is. This flow run on the owner's plan only. And then connections, what are the connections I'm using in this flow? SharePoint is one connection, Outlook is one connection, approvals is another connections I'm using here. Who is the owner for this flow? User 36 is the owner. Now you can see the latest runs here, guys. Latest run history, 28 days run history, you can see it here. So maybe running, this flow is running multiple times, succeeded one time. And see here something called process mining. Process mining is a preview feature, still it is not coming to life. Process mining is nothing but, if your flow is having some many issues, if your flow is taking some time to complete the process, if you want to improve the performance of your flow, you can go and use the process mining. Process mining is used for what? Improve your flow performance, guys. Process mining is used to improve the flow performance. Currently, on an average, what is the time taking it is means run duration. This is the run duration. You can, if you want to improve it, that means if you want to reduce the runtime, that means if you want to improve the performance, you can go and use the process mining. This is the preview feature, not worries to learn it. So these are the some of, if you want to see the complete details of your flow, you can go to the details of the flow. So these are the some of the actions or settings we have in the flows. These are called as flow settings. These are called as flow settings, all this. And next we are going to discuss here is flow action settings. Now what is the flow action settings? If you see, if you go and open any flow, let me go and open this flow, guys. Let me go and open the multi-level approval. When I go and open this multi-level approval, so the first one is trigger. Next, this is one action, this is one action, this is one action, this is another action. All these are actions. So these actions also will have some settings. If you see on in the right side, you have some three buttons, three ellipses, right? This is more actions. Now when I go and click on it, now here you can see some actions here, guys. The first one is what means, the first one is copy a clipboard. Copy a clipboard. So what is this copy a clipboard means? Let us say when the approval is started, if the outcome is approved, then what I want to do, I want to go and update the data. If what I want to update, let us say I want to update it to approve. I want to update it to what? Approve. If the approver is not approving, he is rejected, then I want to perform the same action here. So instead of going and manually doing this action, what you can do means, you can go to this step, three dots, copy the same step, go to the new action, go to the new action. You can see here called my clipboard. Go to the my clipboard, and then whatever the item you copy, whatever the action you copied, you are able to see that action here. Now just go and select that one. Now see, instead of going and using manually doing the same thing, you can go and copy this step and you can copy it anywhere. So from here you can go and do the same operations. So by default is approved. If you want to change it to reject, you can go and change it to reject. So this is what is meant by, what is this? Copy to a clipboard, guys. So this is what is meant by this copy to a clipboard. And next one is new comments. New comments means if you want to add any comments here for this step, if you want to add any comments, you can mention the comments here. Just these are like comments. And next one is rename. If you want to rename this action, what is that action? Update item. What I'm updating here? waiting for manager approval. So instead of keeping it as update item, if you want to rename it, you can go and rename. What I want to rename it here is waiting for manager approval. Waiting for manager approval. Now you can rename the steps. Always better to go and rename the steps, guys. Whatever the step you added, whatever the action you added, better to go and rename it. So if you want to rename the action, you can go and rename. And next one is add a note. If you want to keep any note here regarding this, you can go and keep some notes here, guys. So see, it is adding some note here. If you want to keep any note, you can go and keep the note. So for now, I don't want to keep any note. So just remove it. Just remove the note. It is renaming. Let me rename it to waiting for manager approval. So if you want to keep some notes, you can go and keep the notes. So you can keep some comments, and if you can keep some note here, guys. Next, statistics. This statistics is also a preview feature. Still we don't come into live. The statistics means when I on the statistics, enable statistics preview. When I enable the statistics preview, now see, it is giving some statistics, guys. Status, whether you want to state that this flow, this action is succeeded or failure, whether this action is success or failure. If the action is success, I want to give some identification. If it is failure, I want to give some other identification. Now if the what is that error message? So if there are some errors, now if you want to keep some error message, you can go and keep some error messages. Now see, I'm keeping here failure. When I click on the done, now there is one icon, it is added. So if you want to keep this icon, whether the step is success, whether this action is success or failure, then you can keep here statistic result. So statistics result means whether the flow is run properly or whether the flow is failed. That means that not a flow, action. Whether the flow is failed or action, you can see it here. If it is success, I think it will get the green mark. If it is failure, then we'll get the output as red mark. So this is called a statistic result. So I don't want to keep this. Just turn off it now. Just turn off it. And next what is the action? Settings. When I go to the settings, if you see here, there is something called secure input and secure output, guys. These two are important. Now what is this secure input and secure output? So let us say if there is any some information you are passing as high level information. So it is, if you want to keep anything confidential, which you don't want to display to the users, then you can go and enable the secure inputs. If you see by default for this email id action, I am enabling this. Now I am going to turn off it. I'm going to turn off this too. I'm going to turn off it. Click on done. Now see, I'm for now, when I go and save this flow, when I go and save this flow, what is this? Let me run it. Something went wrong. Let refresh the page. Try again sometime later. Let it refresh. So try to understand what is this secure input and secure output. Now just go to this three dots ellipses, go to the settings. Now see, currently I am enabling the secure input and secure output. Let me turn off it and click on done. Now just save the flow now. Now your flow is ready. Now test the flow. Now see, whenever the item is created, I want to run this flow, test the flow. Let me go and insert some data into this. Let me go and edit in grid view. Employee is equals to 105. Let me keep some dummy name. Let me keep some random number. Let me enter some email ID, whatever the email ID it is. Just I'm entering some data here, guys. Let me pass some dummy values. I'm entering some data. Whenever the row is inserted, now I want to run this flow. Now when I go and run this flow, the flow will start run. I think this is not the one. It is approval, I think. It is leave approval list, not the students list. Let me go and enter some data. Leave type is casual leave. Description, I'm keeping some random number. Let me keep it as, let me select the date. To date, status submitted, manager, user 36, manager comments. Let me go and save it. Now once it is saved, now the flow will run. Why it is not running previously means I'm changing the data in another list. Now when I run, now see your flow is running. Now the flow will run. Now if you go and see here, when I go to the email action, email, send an email, you can see it here, guys. Input. What is the input? Username. So this is some confidential data. I want to make it as confidential. So I don't want to display this email. And if you have some output here also, you have some output. If there is any output, I want to keep this output also some confidential. So when, if you don't want to show this input and output to the users whenever they run the flow, then what we need to do here is just to go to the three ellipses, go to the settings, turn on the secure input. When I turn on the secure input, whatever the input values you are passing, the user is not able to see it. Whatever the output is getting, the user is not able to see the output. And this not required, guys. This is asynchronous patterns, these are not required. And atomic decompression, so this is also not required. And next, timeout. Already we discussed about this timeout we discussed. Now just click on done. Now let me go and save the flow. Now what I am doing here, I am enabling the secure input and secure output. Whenever I enable the secure input and output, now see, you'll see an option called lock, guys. Now you see an icon here, lock icon. So when I go and save the flow, let me save the flow. Let me test the same flow now. Previously it is displaying the values, use your email ID of that user, whoever it is submitting the leave request. Now I am going to submit another paid leave. Let me submit this record. Once it is submitted, now the flow run fail. Okay, let me go and explain whether the front fail is or not. It is not a matter. Now try to understand. Previously, when I am not on the secure inputs and output, I'm able to see the input, that is user email ID. So now I'm not able to see the email ID of that user. What is the message is keeping? Content not shown due to security configurations. So if there is anywhere, if you want to keep some data as confidential while running the flow, you can go and enable what? Secure input and secure output. So this is what is this? Secure input and secure output. Next one is configure and run. Now what is this configure and run, guys? Now in order to go and explain this configure and run, let me go to this step. Now see, I'm telling that first I'm sending the approval request to the manager here. If the outcome of the approval, if the outcome of the previous step, it is approved, that means if the manager is approved, then what I want to perform? Then if you see, I think here we have this. Here we don't have it. Directly it is yes or no condition. If it is success, this one. If it is failure, this is the one. So what I need to do here is, let us say, let me go here itself, guys. So update item. Previous step is what? Update item. If the previous step is succeeded, if the record is updated successfully, if the previous succeeded, then only go for the next step. So if you want to go and see this type of settings, go to the configure and run. Already I discussed this scenario somewhere in the previous classes. When I go and click on this configure and run, now it is taking the previous step. What's the previous step? Update item. Now when I want to run the email step, means send an email, means if the previous step is succeeded, when only when the previous step is success, then only I need to go and run the next step. If the previous step is failed, I don't want to run this flow. When I need to go and go for the next process of this flow means, if this previous step is successfully the item is updated, then only I want to go for the next process. If it is not updated, I don't want to go for the next process. Let us say if the previous step is failed, then only I want to move for the next process. So go and click on what failed. If the previous step is failed, then only go and run the remaining process. Or otherwise, if the previous step is skipped, then you can go and run the remaining process. Or if the previous step has timed out, let us say if the previous step is timed out, the user is not responding, then in this case, if you want to run the flow means, then go and select this one. So if the previous, based on the previous step, I need to go and run the remaining steps. When I want to run this send email, when the previous step is succeeded, by default, whenever if you add an action, it is success case. If you want to change it, you can go and change it. I discussed about timed out. When I'm sending the, when I send a leave request to the manager, if the manager is not responding within 1 or 2 hours, I want to go and auto approve it. How to auto approval? Auto approvals already discussed, guys. When I'm discussing about the auto approvals, they are discussed about this scenario. So this is what is meant is configure and run. So by default, for each and every step, see if you go to the approvals also, here also configure and run. What is this default? By default, configure and run is what? Success. If you want to change it to failure, you can change. If you want to change to skip, you can keep. If you want to change it to has timed out, you can change it. So this is what is meant with this configure and run. And next step, next one is peak code. Now what is this peak code means? Whenever if you add any action, whenever if you perform any action, this is action, this is one action, this is another action. Whenever if you perform any action in the back end, Power Automate will write some code. Guess what code it will write means? HTML code it will write. So if you want to see that HTML code, go to this three dots, click on the peak code. Now when I click on the peak code, now see here the Power Automate itself in the backend is writing some HTML code, guys. This is all the HTML code. You no need to go and learn it. By default, the Power Automate will run. If you want to see what code the Power Automate is writing in the backend, whenever if you add any step, each and every step they will add one code here, guys. When I go to the update items, here also it is writing some code. Here also it is writing some code. This is HTML code. So like this, if you want to see what code the Power Automate is writing in the backend, go to the peak code. From here in the peak code, you can see the code, what code the Power Automate is writing. And then next, what is the next one is delete. If you want to delete this action or a step, go and delete it. So this is what is this flow action settings. This is flow. In that flow, these are the actions, flow action settings. One is copy to clipboard, new comment, rename, add a note, statistics, result, and settings. Settings means secure input and output, configure and run, peak code, and then finally delete. And in the bottom, you are able to see the connections. In this email, what connections I'm using here? I'm using the user 36. And the same way, if you go to the update, here also it will show us what connections you are using. And if you go to the approvals, here if you have any connections, it will see. What is the connection I'm using here? Approval connections. So in the bottom, you can see what connections you are using here. So this is the actions case. If each and every action will have some settings here. So every action will have the same settings. There is no change here. So this is all about what is this flow action settings. And one more we discussed here is flow settings. So this is what is meant by this parent flows and child flows, when to go and use the parent flows, when to go and use the child flows, and how to call a child flow into the parent flows. To create the child flows, you need to manually go and create what solutions. And then we discussed here how to call a child flow from the parent flows, and how to trigger a flow from another flow, and then flow settings and flow action settings. Fine, let me stop it here.